Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm Serena. I am your go-to guide for all things sensitive, and today we are going to be talking about the sensitive person and choosing supportive environments, okay? So I want to say thank you everybody for joining. If you are new here, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to get all the latest videos, meditations, step-by-step guides that are coming out. If you are returning, thank you so much for being here. I'm super looking forward to this episode and getting to talk a little bit more about supportive environments. So without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, so if you are highly sensitive or an empath, this video is for you. This video is also going to be somewhat okay for people that are not highly sensitive, but maybe want to understand their highly sensitive partner, son, daughter, coworker, somebody that you want to understand that is highly sensitive, and maybe like why they do the things that they do, or things like that. So this video is really going to be for all of our sensitive people out there, and we're going to be talking a little bit about boundaries, a little bit about sensitivity, and a little bit about supportive environments, which supportive environments is kind of like the umbrella over the entire thing. So really, let's get into it. Oh, guys, really, like, as a sensitive person, finding a supportive environment can be challenging, to say the least, especially if you didn't grow up in a supportive environment, right? Because then, truthfully, you really don't know what that looks like, okay? And that's not your fault, and that's not your parents' fault, or whoever raised you, or however you grew up. I think this is the common thing that happens a lot of times with highly sensitive people, or empaths. So I'm just going to use the word sensitives to describe both, because this really works for sensitive people, like highly sensitives, and also empaths. So we're just going to use the term sensitive in order to describe that. But so this is really the thing, okay? I think a lot of times what happens with sensitive people is we feel really jaded by the way that we grew up, because it felt like the system was broken and there was no place for us that really loved and accepted, who we were, or who we are even. And so the challenge that comes with that when we're trying to find supportive environments is we were never modeled what that looks like growing up, okay? And that is nobody's fault. That is just how it happened to you, right? So part of becoming free in your sensitivity and embracing your sensitivity is going to be, truthfully, about accepting the fact that that was the circumstances in which we grew up, right? And that everybody was just working with the tools that they had. So even though those tools were not valid or didn't support you in the way that you would have liked to be supported, like, everyone's just working with what they have. And if what you have is not sensitive tools, then you're never going to learn how to use sensitive tools. So it's actually your job as the sensitive. Believe me, I know this is super frustrating and annoying, but it's your job as the sensitive to help give other people the tools. And that's why you've been given it as the gift of sensitivity, is so that you can help educate and encourage other people to understand that these sensitivities are a gift, and they're not something that you're going to try and change. They're not something that just makes you more difficult or more dramatic. Like, these are something to embrace. And part of finding supportive environments is thinking of your sensitivity as a gift and thinking of it as what you can offer to the world. So I've been dealing with this a lot in my, I think really like the last 2 years of my life, really. So I sold my house. I quit. I used to be a hairstylist, okay, and I loved it. It was amazing. The people were amazing, but it was a very, very, very competitive environment. For a highly sensitive person to have a blow dryer going all the time, trying to talk to someone also while physically manipulating, the hair or coloring or styling or cutting, and also talking at the same time, doing that many, multitasking type activities can be very, very highly overstimulating. And having, two clients there at once, having an assistant that you're working with that you're trying to communicate as well, it's a really challenging environment for somebody that is sensitive or highly sensitive. And so I got the opportunity and I was able to quit that job and kind of start to take a different route. And this is when I really started to understand that I am highly sensitive and that I am empathic and that those things are, a part of who I am. Now, believe me, I was nowhere near like the acceptance or the embracing stage. Like that's not where I was at all. And I'll link it up here. I have a video that's about the 3 stages of, knowing, accepting, and embracing your sensitivity. And so there are 3 stages to that. I'm going to link it up here so that you guys can watch that one as well, because that's a super amazing video and why you should be at the embracing stage really all the time, and especially right now. But so for me, going back to my story, right? I quit that job and I sold my house. So that was the first house I ever bought, and it was just, the most amazing like sanctuary. It really was my like highly sensitive sanctuary. And quickly after I sold that house, I moved in with my partner. And so now my partner at the time was coming back from traveling, and he lived in the basement of his parents' house. And so I moved in with him very shortly after we first got together. And so not only was I in a new environment with a new person, but also in a new environment with his family, right? And wanting to make a good impression, but also, we were in the basement. So if you want to talk about a supportive environment, it was very dark down there. It was very cold down there. So like in terms of like supportive for a sensitive person, it was not a super supportive place, but it was kind of, I was in this mentality of like, this is the logical next step. And it was, and that's okay. And just because you're in an environment that's not supportive doesn't mean you shouldn't be there either. So I'm going to go into that in a minute. But for the last 2 years of my life, really, I spent without like a home. So I'll go into this story a little bit. Some of you might know, some of you might not know, but essentially I was planning a cross-continental African adventure trip with this partner. And so we were planning on going from Cape Town, South Africa, all the way up to Cairo, Egypt. And we were going to do this with 11 other people. So we were planning this for, a year and a half, almost 2 years. And during this time, we began to also start traveling. So we left the basement at his parents' house, and then we started traveling. So this was my first experience. Like, we camped all across the U.S. We stayed, and it was cold. Oh my gosh, when we left Chicago, it was like 20 degrees in February. And so we left and we were car camping. I had a 2009 Honda Accord, and I, car camped my way all the way across, the Midwest into Colorado, Utah. We went into California, and then we came down. We went into Nevada, Arizona, all the way down, and then we ended in Florida. So we literally went like across the whole U.S. And, so there was pros and cons to it. I'll just be completely honest. Like, being in nature that much, that is super supportive for a sensitive because it's so rejuvenating. And there was so many different kinds of nature. I'd never been to Arizona before. I'd never been to Nevada, never been to California. Like, there were so many places we went. Like, I felt such a resonance with the Red Rocks, and I feel like I could have just sat there and sat on the Red Rocks in the sun. Even though it wasn't warm, it was just a beautiful, beautiful energy and place to be in. But the camping was horrific for me as a sensitive. Like, for myself personally, when I get cold, my body starts to go into like fight or flight mode because it's trying to stay warm. And so it starts to like rev up my nervous system because there's a fear around, if I get too cold, then my body's going to start to shut down, right? So the fact that we were first camping in like 19-degree weather to me was like a giant shock, right? I couldn't take my hat off. I couldn't take my gloves off. And luckily I had my partner who had done all of this before, because he was able to guide me in, how does that work? Now, granted, he wasn't highly sensitive, so maybe to the degree that I was feeling things wouldn't be to the degree that he would understand, but still he was able to say, look, you're going to need these things. This is how you're going to have to sleep. Like, this is, and it's a lot of it in finding a supportive environment is trial and error, and it's seeing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. For me, for example, when I get cold, it's not supportive for me. It starts to drain my energy really fast. I have to eat a lot more. My metabolism slows down, so my stomach a lot of times doesn't feel that great. It's a lot of things, that kind of like add up onto each other. When I'm cold, I don't want to drink water because my body has to work extra hard in order to warm that water back up. When you're camping, it takes an extreme amount of resources and effort to heat even just like a canteen of water when you think about it, right? Because you have to start a fire, you have to wait for that fire to go, you have to put the pot on the thing and let it heat up for like 30 minutes. It takes a lot of effort just to make a little cup of hot water when you're camping and when you don't have those kinds of resources. So for me, it was a huge eye-opener on, what is good for me and what is not. I can camp all day long when it's nice out, right? But then it starts to rain. And then, your body gets soaked and you get cold, right? So there's so many things that go into how that works and what that looks like. And everybody's going to be different with this, right? Especially when it comes to nature, right? Like when I was saying earlier, those red rocks were just absolutely gorgeous and I felt so connected to them. But there was a point when we were in the swamp in like the bottom of Alabama and before we got into Florida. So it was like that whole bottom portion in between Texas and Florida. And when we were down there, that was not my environment at all. Like to me, it felt so energetically chaotic, and you can just see so much death because in the swamp things decompose so much faster because of the humidity and the moisture. Okay, so basically what would happen is I'd be sitting there and I could literally just feel the death, and then you can feel the moisture like on your skin, and there's a sense of like just feeling like suffocated, and while it was warmer, right, it was warmer, so you would think that would be like, oh, okay, you should be comfortable now because it's warm. But it was like the atmosphere of the swamp was just totally not supportive for like what I enjoy and what is good for me. So finding supportive environments is going to really be all about knowing yourself. That's the most important thing, is just knowing yourself. And sometimes there's no other way to go about it, I'm sorry to say, besides trial and error and just going somewhere and doing something. There was so many things I learned about myself when I was traveling. And traveling as a highly sensitive person is really, really hard. And if you're a highly sensitive person or an empath and you have traveled anywhere in the States or just anywhere in the world, I've done a lot of travel throughout the rest of the world and Africa as well. And it's really hard. It's really hard. And without other people there to support you, that's also part of a supportive environment, is having other people there. So when you're able to have other people there, it's, it can make life either easier or it can make life a lot harder as well. So the partners that I was traveling with throughout Africa, again, were not highly sensitive at all. Like there was no part of them that could understand the degree of stimulus that I was feeling at any given moment, right? So we were in Africa, so there's a lot of different challenges camping in Africa than there are camping in the States. And without getting into it too much, having people there that really love and support you taking care of yourself is so important. So what this comes down to is really you, again, knowing yourself. And like we talked about in the beginning, you have to be the one to educate others on how you experience reality. And a lot of times you're going to be faced with a lot of like cynicism or a lot of criticism, like There's going to be people out there that are like, yeah, you're just too sensitive, or like, if you really tried, you can change that. But believe me, I tried so hard to change myself in the beginning. It was, it was just like, if I got myself as ungodly uncomfortable as possible, if I was dirty and smelly and didn't shower and was hot or too cold, or if I just stuck it out, then I would totally be able to break my sensitivity. And let me tell you, it doesn't work like that. It really, really doesn't work like that. Like, being sensitive, especially highly sensitive people, it is in your nervous system. It is in the way that your body works. It's not going to change. You're not going to change it. And why would you want to? Because that's the thing, right? It is a gift. And so highly sensitive people, whether you're empathic or whether you are highly sensitive, these kind of people give constant energy to the environment and the people that they surround themselves with, okay? So what's important to know here is that the reason why you need to be in a supportive environment is because your energy is constantly outflowing to the people and the places around you. So sometimes you'll go into a location and you'll just know it's not for you. And let me give you a small piece of advice. If anyone tells you that you need to stay there in order to overcome something, that is a sacrifice to yourself that you do not have to make. Now, if you want to stay there because you want to see if you can, handle that challenge, then great. But believe me, I have dealt a long time with a lot of people telling me that I need to alter the way I do things in order to become stronger, in order to be more brave, in order to... No. None of that. Being in a supportive environment is about valuing what you offer. And as a sensitive person, what you offer the world is you. Okay? You have gifts that nobody else has. And I don't mean nobody else, but you have gifts that, are unique to you. And they operate in a specific way that's unique to you. And that is what you give to everybody around you every moment of the day. So no, it is not your job to stick out a situation that makes you uncomfortable. No, it is not your job to be around people that either drain your energy or that make you uncomfortable or that gaslight you or that tell you that you're not enough or you can't keep up or you're too sensitive or you're too much or you're too dramatic or you don't have what it takes. None of that. Because you have a gift that a lot of people would love to have. And because of that gift, you're constantly giving love and light into your environment. But that means that you need to take care of yourself and support yourself in ways that are comfortable for you. It's not your job to make yourself more uncomfortable, to suffer on somebody else's behalf. That's not your job. It's not your job to shrink away from conflict because somebody doesn't agree with the way that you feel or experience reality. That's not your job. Finding supportive environments is literally only about valuing yourself and what you have to offer to the world. Because when you value yourself, you don't stay in supportive or you don't stay in unsupportive environments. You don't stay with unsupportive people. You don't put up with the things that make you feel small or the things that make you feel unempowered or disempowered. When you truly love and accept your gifts, you find and you will find, and they will be attracted to you, people, places, and environments that are supportive for you. And your entire life will start to bloom around that. You will find more joy, more happiness. You'll be able to grow in different ways. And it's a beautiful, beautiful unfolding. And finding a supportive environment is the number one most important thing you could do for yourself. And all of that starts with valuing what you have to bring to every environment that you come in contact with. It's a beautiful gift. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please put them down in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, all of that good stuff so you don't miss all the latest episodes coming out. And if you want to know more about me, there is tons of information in the box below. You can go to my website. I've also handcrafted a highly sensitive soul playlist. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the link below. This playlist is really good for soothing the nervous system and just literally bringing us back to ourselves, because that's the main issue that we usually have as sensitives, is we're always in a heightened state and we're more prone to anxiety. So this playlist is meant to really soothe the nervous system. It's very soft, super good for the highly sensitive soul. And with that being said, I hope you all have an amazing, amazing day. Remember, you are a super power, super hero, and you are amazing. Big love, Serena.